get going here. Welcome everybody to our patient testimonial webinar. I'm Ericka Shepherd. I'm the Vice President of Patient Success at MyEyes. I'm also a patient ambassador, also a glaucoma patient, and all of our patient ambassadors are as well. So we all use home tonometry every day. Maybe not every day, but we all use it all the time to manage our disease. So we thought, we've done a few of these webinars now, and we thought it'd be kind of fun to welcome some of our patients and all of you, obviously, but then just to let you hear some different stories about how people use home tonometry. We're the nation's biggest distributor of the iCare Home2 tonometer. And we'll show you some pictures of that, answer any questions that you have. Super casual. If you guys, I think everybody's muted by default, but we'll go through and share a few stories and then answer any questions that you might have. It's a great place to, again, we're almost all glaucoma patients, so it's a great place to just throw out any questions that you have about home tonometry, insurance, that type of thing. And some of you have home tonometers. I recognize your names that have purchased from MyEyes or rented from MyEyes, and some don't. You might just be curious to find out what it's all about, but we're here for you. So it's a community. We're all in this together. So just would welcome any questions, and any questions that you have as we go along. If you could just pop them in the chat, that would be helpful. And it's probably going to be a bigger group, so we may not open everybody up to just talking, but we'll answer questions as we go at the end. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin Wilson. He's our first patient testimonial, and let him tell you a little bit more about his story and how he got into home tonometry.
So far away?
You got it.
Okay. As I said, I'm Justin Wilson. My journey with glaucoma started September 2021. It was quite a tumultuous month. I had advanced heart failure, and then also went to the optometrist and found out my left eye was an IOP 48, right eye 38. I didn't realize at the time that that was incredibly bad, and obviously potentially higher in the evenings. But I was given a cocktail of drugs, mainly Compigan, which seemed to work great. But then for 18 months, and suddenly I woke up one day and I was absolutely allergic to every eye drop known to mankind, preservatives, non-preservatives. So in March, that took us to about March of 2023, where I met Barbara, believe it or not, in Cabo, Mexico, where I now live. She recommended I try Durista as a short-term fix to the elevated pressures. Went to Salt Lake City, got SLT. And then in May of 2023, the tonometer arrived in the mail. No idea what to expect, and it took me a little while to get used to it. But after just a day or two and talking to Ericka to help set me up, which is, I can't stress enough the importance of using the MyEyes staff to help get you through both getting the thermometer and then setting it up for you, because each one is very individual. So the first thing it gave me was peace of mind. I now knew what my eye pressure was every day. I have typically taken it every 3 to 4 hours during the day, and it takes 30 to 45 seconds to do both eyes completely, so it's not particularly intrusive. The tonometer travels well, because I do travel all over the world, and works well. I'll give you one example where the tonometer, you could say, basically saved my eyesight. I was scheduled in December 2023 to have a procedure called PreserFlow, which is where they put a stent in my bad eye. And at the time, I was trending up because we knew from my daily use of the tonometer up into the 15 to 20 range, and occasionally going above 20. But because of my heart failure, I was given Ozempic, the weight loss drug, for my heart. But what we didn't realize and found out, because I have the tonometer, it actually took my eye pressure back down in the 8 to 13, 9 to 13 range. As I said, I was scheduled to have PreserFlow And because on a daily basis, I knew what my eye pressure was and how it had been affected by the Ozempic, um, I delayed the pressure flow surgery, because if I had had the surgery with my eye pressure that low, it could have actually done more damage. But after about 4 to 6 months, the effect of the weight loss drug, the Ozempic, started to wear off. My eye pressure started to go back up again, where I was back in the 15 to 20 range. So I then went to Canada and saw Dr. Ahmed and had the Presiflow surgery, which was very successful. And my pressures then came back down to the 8 to 13 range. So I can say without reservation, the tonometer gives me peace of mind and to a large extent helped save my eyesight in my left eye, because without it, I would have gone and had the surgery and it could have been catastrophic. And as I said, living in Mexico, it is difficult to find an ophthalmologist and even more difficult to find a good one. So this allows me to communicate with the Moran Eye Center at will on a daily basis. They see my data. I don't have to get on a plane and go 1,200 miles. So the benefits to me are probably greater than a lot of candidates because I'm so far removed from my world-class doctor in Salt Lake. And I cannot recommend it more. And as I said, the only other thing I'd recommend, if and when you buy the tonometer, make life a lot easier and just call Ericka and her team, and they will walk you through it in 5 minutes and save you any frustration. But again, once you get used to the machine, it's a piece of cake. It's just like cleaning your teeth in the morning. It becomes part of your routine. It's a wonderful addition to my care regime. Literally couldn't live without it. So that's my story. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. And the Barb that Justin is referring to is Dr. Barbara Roscoe, who's one of our co-founders at MyEyes. She founded the company with another patient of hers, Paul Margolis, and that was 4 or 5 years ago. And there was an original Home, just to give you a little background, machine that was out, and the Home2 is the newer version. Some of you may still have the original Home device as well. But just for those of you who aren't familiar with home tonometry and why it's used, I often liken it to a blood pressure machine. And, you know, when you have cardiac problems and you have a blood pressure machine, you have one at home and you take your pressure after you exercise, if you're doing certain activities, if you're, sleeping, getting up, different times of the day. And eye pressure, IOP, is very similar, where it changes and it fluctuates. And being able to test your IOP during the day, at different times of the day, after different activities, sitting up, laying down, it's really critical to find those spikes and fluctuations. And similar to Justin, I won't get into my entire story, but I only have glaucoma in one eye. It's secondary to another disease. And I had had a shunt like 12 years ago. It was really stable for like 8 years. And just like most of you, I got my eye pressure taken every 3 to 6 months in the doctor's office at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or whenever I went in. And everything was really stable until it started creeping up a little bit in the 20s. And again, that's at my, every and at that point you go every 6 weeks. When your eye pressure starts creeping up, you go a little more often. And because of the rarity of my disease, my doctor was sending me to all different specialists. She's like, you know what, you're stable in your 20s, it's fine, we'll send you to all these different people. Well, one of them suggested that I rent this home tonometer. I knew nothing about home tonometry, certainly knew nothing about the Home2. And so I rented it. And what we found is that my pressure was spiking into the 40s on a regular basis at night, early in the morning. So what we thought we had, a few weeks, a couple of months to figure out the next best steps, we really didn't. And had I not rented the tonometer, who knows? Just like Justin, who knows what would have happened if I'd gone another few weeks or a couple of months without dealing with it. So I had another shunt implanted within 2 weeks of that appointment. So that's really what we're talking about, and being able to be empowered to know what your IOP is, not obsessively, but knowing what it is. If you have a symptom, glaucoma, as we all know, there's not a lot of symptoms. So, but being able to know what activities affect your IOP, medications, therapy change, surgeries, all of that. It's just really critical. And I often find, I talk about, again, the blood pressure machine, and we wouldn't do open heart surgery based on blood pressure that was, you take once every 3 to 6 months. You would, you work with your doctor and you take your blood pressure on a regular basis. Same with diabetes or anything like that. So just that's kind of where we're at. And, it is a matter of knowing how home tonometry can really help you and really save your vision. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our next story. And next patient is Jackie Bass, who's also a patient of Dr. Roscoe's, ironically. But go ahead, Jackie. You're on mute.
Okay.
There you go. You got it.
I have the same underlying eye disease that Ericka has, and so I only have glaucoma in one eye. And I have been dealing with this for about 8, 9 years. The underlying disease much longer than that, but the glaucoma didn't start to show up until about 8 years ago. And also I see Dr. Roscoe in Utah. My pressure started going up in 2017, and I actually had my first surgery, my first stent in Toronto by the brilliant Dr. Ike Ahmed. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. I still stayed on all of the eye drops, but I didn't have the tonometer yet, and I was going in usually every 4 to 6 weeks to get my pressure checked because I was so nervous about it. Then I got the tonometer in 22 and was able to, when I first got it, the first few months, I was taking it like just in, every few hours. Not during the night, but during the day. And then I realized I didn't need to do it quite that much, but I did notice that it was going up. And I ended up having another stent put in 22. So I'm still on all of the eye drops and I still monitor my pressure weekly. Usually now about 2 or 3 times a week. I'm not doing it as much as I used to, but I've been pretty stable, thankfully, for quite some time. So, but for me, it has been a game changer because of what others have alluded to, the knowledge that the capability to know what your pressure it is at any given time without having to wait and wonder and get scared about what could be happening, what damage could be happening just because you hadn't been to the doctor in a month or two. So it has been invaluable to me, and I can't imagine going through this glaucoma journey without it.
It really is. The word empowering comes up again and again because it's just being able, I've often said we've all sat in the chair, right? You're in your ophthalmologist, your glaucoma specialist office, and you're sitting in the chair and you're waiting and the blue light's coming and you hold your breath, but you're not supposed to hold your breath. So don't hold your breath. But the light's coming at you and you're just like, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? It's a number, and it's so much easier knowing that you're going into an appointment where you know what, your pressure might be a little elevated, but you know that at home it's not, or maybe it is. So you just have that information. It just gives you so much more information. It gives your doctor so much more information. I know my regular glaucoma specialist was not the one who recommended I rent it, but after I did, she's a believer, and she prescribes all the time now because that information is just so critical to make those next decisions, because glaucoma is so different. It looks different in every person. Jackie and I have the same disease, ironically, because it's so rare. So to run into somebody else is kind of funny. But,
Right.
There's so many different types of glaucoma. Everybody responds differently to medication and to surgery. And what works for one person doesn't work for another. So having that information is just so critical. So critical. I'm going to, Krista, if you wouldn't mind, because we're going to get this question. So I'd rather deal with it up front, is insurance. And does insurance pay for a home tonometer? And the short answer is yes and no. So some insurances do, some don't. Medicare, we find, just doesn't. Like, it's not listed in CMS. There's no. It's called a HCPCS code, and they won't pay for it. However, we're finding some Medicare Advantage plans do pay for it.
Hmm.
However, you have to be very persistent. We at MyEyes give you everything you need to submit a claim. We can't bill for you, but we can give you the tools to submit a claim. Some people have gotten prior authorization, which means they got authorization ahead of time where the insurance company says, yeah, we'll pay for it. You go ahead and buy it. We'll reimburse you. And that's gone through and that's worked. More and more of these are happening. So I think insurance companies are coming to realize that, they'd rather have you taking your pressure at home and saving a doctor's visit, chair time, and making better therapy decisions based on the fact that they now have more information. However, like anything with insurance companies, it is a slow process. But Krista was a great example of somebody who just championed the insurance process. So I asked if she would come on and just kind of tell her story about what she went through and how she made it happen.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. Hey, everybody. So I think everyone's situation is going to be a little unique depending on what your, health insurance situation is. But I have juvenile open angle glaucoma. And so one of the things that I felt like this would be having a home tonometer would be a good investment in my ongoing lifelong um, treatment of this chronic condition. And so I did approach my health insurance company last May to see if it would be possible for the iHome2 tonometer to be covered as a durable medical device under my current plan because I had rented it last year for MyEyes to diagnose pressure spikes that I was having in the evenings. And so I had talked to an insurance rep and asked, is this something that would be covered in my plan? And when I explained that I had juvenile open angle glaucoma, they told me that my plan actually has a rare disease benefit mandate. And because JOAG is considered a rare disease because it doesn't impact a lot of people worldwide, that even though MyEyes was considered an out-of-network provider for this medical device, that if I would work with them to get prior approval or prior authorization through the rare disease benefit mandate in my insurance plan, that they would be covered as an in-network provider, and then the tonometer would be covered at an 80-20 split for cost. And so, I reached out to MyEyes, worked closely with Ericka to fill out the paperwork that the insurance company needed to go through that process of being recognized as a provider through this rare disease benefit mandate that my plan has. And then we didn't hear anything for a long time. And so I had to call multiple times my insurance company to be like, where's this at? Why aren't we hearing anything? Um, so from start to finish, I finally got reimbursed for the tonometer um, actually just this month. So this was like a 9-month process.
Wow.
One of the things that I had to do was a lot of follow-up. So I had to, I documented all my conversations, everyone I talked to at the insurance company. I had dates and conversation numbers and names of people that I talked to so they could track the conversations over time. Um, and, MyEyes did get approved, thanks to their work completing the paperwork. And also my doctor wrote a really great letter of medical necessity. That was, I think, really key to also getting it approved as well. Like Justin, I live in an area where I do not live very close to my glaucoma specialist. So I think that was also something in my favor when I was applying for coverage for the home tonometer. And then they denied my claim for reimbursement, even though I had gotten the letter of approval that my eyes would be, would be recognized under this mandate. So I called my insurance. I said, okay, so we got this letter. I can go ahead and purchase, and it will be covered for reimbursement. And the rep told me yes, which I documented. And then I went through the process of, submitting for reimbursement, which again, MyEyes was super helpful at making sure that we checked all the boxes that my insurance required the invoice to have to be considered. And they rejected it. And when I looked at the code for why it was rejected, they said it was because it was um, a service that would be covered if it was an in-network provider, even though we had just gone through the process of getting them to be treated like an in-network provider. So then I called them and I said, how do I fight this? And so they told me how I would go through the process of submitting
Wow.
a claim to adjust this denial, which I did. And I submitted all the same paperwork that I submitted before, the letter of approval, the letter from my doctor, all of that good stuff, the invoice again. And then they did end up approving it. They adjusted it. They paid the 80/20 split. I got a check in the mail this month. So a lot of persistence, a lot of work. I mean, a lot of time talking to the insurance providers. But I would say that, sometimes they might pay just to have you, stop bothering them, perhaps. I don't know. But it doesn't hurt to ask if there is, to ask in advance before purchasing if it's something that they would cover. And, I had a great rep at the beginning who told me exactly what kind of process, that I would need to follow. And um, yeah, and with the support of MyEyes, it was a great process to once we had the paperwork figured out. But yeah, there was a lot of follow-up that I needed to do, but it worked.
You definitely get the tenacity award, Krista.
Yeah.
No question. No question. But
I think
here's
you.
the thing. Like we're a community of glaucoma patients, and the insurance piece of this to cover home tonometry is a grassroots effort. So everybody, and for every Krista, we've got more Kristas that have done the same thing. We've got people that would give. To be honest, I submitted mine. I gave up. So that was 3 years ago, and it was really at the very beginnings. But the more insurance companies, and we've had insurance companies across the gamut. We've had reps from Blue Cross. We've had United Healthcare, Aetna. We've had some Medicaids pay for it, especially if it's a child. We've had Workman's Comp pay for it, TRICARE. So, but it is hit or miss. So it's really a matter of being very persistent, very tenacious. And for every person that does that, right, they have more and more record of paying for these for patients. So if you are looking to purchase or to rent, and we've had insurance companies pay for both rentals and purchases, or rentals and purchases together. We've had some insurance companies that just pay for it right out of the gate with no explanation or not much of an explanation. But we can work with your doctor as well. We do have, sample template letters that your doctor can use and things like that have all the information about the tonometer on it. So definitely reach out to your insurance company. And I always say, if you get somebody on the phone and they say no, call back, because sometimes it just depends on who you get on the other end of the line, and just keep working at it. So I appreciate all of you who have gone that route and have tried, and just don't take no for an answer right out of the gate. But again, we give you everything you need to submit a claim, and we really try to work with you. Every insurance company wants something a little bit different. And, it might be a DNA fingerprint, like who knows? Like they try to run in circles and get all kinds of different information. I think to Krista's point, to kind of make you give up. But, those who are persistent really can get it done. So thank you, Krista. I appreciate it. I'm going to go to some of the questions, I think, here before I get too far ahead. I've been answering some as we go. Barbara, there's one from Dennis. How often does a a Home2 device have to be calibrated, and does it have to be sent back to MyEyes for this? No. Unlike the Goldman machine, which uses a different type of tonometry technology, the blue light, I call it the blue light one. This uses a technology similar to the one that you've probably all had, where there's a little probe that comes out, it touches your eye 6 quick times. They use them in the doctor's office as well. It's a handheld that you can't use on yourself. It's not the puff of air either. I don't know about you, but I hate that one. That's just me. But this uses a different type. So it does not have to be calibrated. There is a base that holds a little probe in place, and that base should be changed about every 6 months, depending on how often you test. So, I'll go in spurts and test for a while and then not test. So it really depends. The probes, you don't have to change it with every reading. We do recommend if it gets dirty, you touch it, that type of thing, that you would go ahead and change it after that. But in general, they're very low maintenance. I take mine to hockey games and horse shows, and like Justin said, he travels with his all the time. They're very hardy. They're very they can do a lot. If I travel with mine, I actually put it in my my checked bag. So I know. I saw that face, Justin. I do.
Yeah.
I just kind of wrap it up in socks and stuff. But I've never had a problem, and it comes with a case, and it's really pretty easy to use. So let's see. I've been told by my doctor that the home tonometer may read slightly higher than the one in his office. Have you found this to be the case? Sometimes it depends on the person. Everybody's a little bit different. It can depend on your cornea thickness as well. So, you just want to make sure that you're working with your doctor. When I take mine to the office, I don't do it a whole lot anymore, but mine is usually within a point or two of the Goldman. But again, everybody's a little bit different. Depends on, the reading type and
Time of
things like
day.
that. What's that?
The time of day as well.
Time of day. Yep, absolutely. And
First thing in the morning, the optometrist in the afternoon, it's going to be different.
yeah,
Probably.
and if we've had people go, and the numbing drops that they put in your eye for the Goldman, and this doesn't require numbing drops, it can actually change your IOP. So if you do take it to the doctor, we recommend that you take it with the Home2 first, and then have your doctor take it with the Goldman after that. Let's see. And to that point too, even if it does read off, it's a different type of tonometry. So again, it's really patient dependent. But at least at home, it's like your blood pressure machine. If you're taking it with an arm cuff versus a wrist cuff versus your iPhone, your readings are going to be a little bit different. So it just depends. It's a different type of technology. And so from that standpoint, at least you're taking it with the same machine every day. So if you have a fluctuation, if you have a spike, you can trust that machine that it's reading the same way each time. So you know that that's your baseline with that machine. Suthair says readings have been 0 to 2. That's what I find, 0 to 2 points from the office readings. Medicare, I mentioned, does not pay. We've had people try. I wouldn't prohibit you from trying, who knows? But in general, no, Medicare doesn't pay, but some of the Advantage plans do. How do you know if you need to change the probe base sooner than the 6 months? Is great question. Sometimes you'll get a reading that says repeat. Sometimes if you don't keep it in the case, the probe base can get a little dirty. You just spray a little air in there, and it usually clears it out. But you'll get readings. And the great thing about the tonometer is that it won't take a measurement if it's too close or too far from your eye. It knows where it is. There's sensors, and it knows where it is. So people are like, oh, well, the probe comes out and touches your eye, and it does, but it's never going to take a reading or try to take a reading if it's too close to your eye. So from that standpoint, it's not going to hit you. Like, we have people who have actual anxiety, and that's a real thing, with something touching your eye. But at the same time, it'll tell you. It's quite for a very simple machine. It's smart, and like I said, it knows where it is in space and time, and it will take if it doesn't detect your eye. It knows if it's taking the right eye or the left eye. If for some reason something obstructs, it's usually around the bridge of your nose. If you're obstructing it or holding it a different way, it'll ask you which eye it took if it doesn't know. So from that standpoint, it's great. Let's see. Anyone know of any amazing surgeons in my area? I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, and at Cincinnati Eye Institute. I know we have a lot of doctors from Cincinnati Eye Institute that prescribe the Home2. So I'll let you all, if anybody's from the great state of Kentucky, to go ahead and answer that. How do you change the probe? Super easy. We have videos on all of those things. To change the probe, you literally just I have my machine here, and I will show you, but it doesn't show very well on a webinar. So you just take the probe out, throw it away. So to put a new probe in, there's it looks like a funnel, goes on the top. It's called a probe applicator. And you just open up the probe, they're sterile, dump it in, and there's a little magnet in the bottom that holds that probe in place. So that's what uses the rebound technology. Let's see. Does the probe base need to be cleaned? How many, oh wait, I missed one. How many times a day can you use the probe if it doesn't look dirty? I'm just going to tell you what I do. Like, I can't say what, like really you could change it every time if you wanted to. I keep the little probe applicator on the top of mine. So it kind of keeps it clean and keeps dust from getting in there. I'd say once a day. It depends on how many times you're measuring. Like, I don't tend to measure, Justin, you measure more than I do, but I change mine every couple of days maybe. So it just depends. It depends on your comfort level, and it depends on how many times you measure. Maris, yes, I've seen that video. There's a video online where they clean the probe base with alcohol, and you can absolutely do that. Yep, that or with the spray can of air. Santa, is Colleen
Question.
here yet? Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, she
Would
is.
that make it unnecessary to change it every 6 months?
Oh, that's the probe base. So the probe base sits under here, and it's the magnet part that holds the probe in place. And then you have the probe itself. So the probe itself is what comes out and touches your eye. So that you want to change more often. The probe base every 6 months is usually pretty good.
Even if it's cleaned with isopropyl alcohol?
Yeah, you still want to change it because, like I said, it is a magnet in there. So you do want to change it if you can. When you buy a Home2, we send you an extra probe base as well. So you're pretty much all set for a good year.
Thank you.
Colleen, let me see if I can find you. There you are. I think that's you. We have another patient, Colleen, who's a world traveler, much like Justin. If you're ready, Colleen, do you want to go ahead and share your story? She's muted, so I don't.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Sorry, I'm not getting a picture here, but hopefully my voice will be entertaining enough, I guess. Hope everybody's doing well. And thank you for having me chat tonight. I love being a part of anything with MyEyes and anything glaucoma. So what would you like me to start with, Ericka? Just kind of a little bit of my background with glaucoma?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I was diagnosed at age 35 with pigmentary dispersion glaucoma and at the same time myopia. And at that point, I did a lot of research into what does that look like for longevity at such a young age of getting diagnosed. And I found a discrepancy in how the healthcare is managed with glaucoma, and that the data report of seeing my doctor once a month for a pressure test or once every 4 months for a pressure test seemed terrible to me. And I would tell my doctor, listen, we've got diabetics who are able to test their sugar levels. Even the iPhone had an iWatch that was already being developed at that time for different blood pressure readings and all sorts of stuff. And I said, how is this not even made for glaucoma patients when we don't even feel a change in our bodies? At least a diabetic, you feel if your blood sugar's dropped. But glaucoma patients, we don't have that privilege to know if something goes wrong with our eyes. And then the treatment with glaucoma is at a level of when the symptom happens, not prevention before it happens. So that also I felt is a problem. How are we treating a progression of a disease at its progressive states instead of preventing them from happening? So my doctor at that point said, you need to join the glaucoma newsletter. And so I went on to that newsletter and would read things. And finally, they were doing their first glaucoma summit out in California.
Getting a little bit of useful information.
What's this?
Sandra, we may need
Gerald?
to mute.
Do you hear me?
I
Yep,
muted
go ahead,
Gerald. Yeah.
Colleen. You're good.
Oh, okay. So I went out to California for the glaucoma summit and got to meet with the wonderful medical engineers and different people working on ideas, and was part of the one of the first testing where it was not a testing but a trial with patients sitting in with the doctors and the medical engineers, and them asking us, and what do we see as an issue? And I loved this new train of medical progression where we work with the medical engineers and the doctors on what we're seeing as a problem. And it's getting involved in advocating for ourselves. And I find that very empowering because, I had said to God, if you're going to give me this disease, you better empower me with it and give me a purpose. I'm not a victim from it. I need to get involved in it. And so this was my answer, that I got to sit here and tell this idea of how about at-home testing for patients so we can actually see what is going on with our pressures, because each person with glaucoma is also very different. I said, what if I'm eating something that's causing my pressure to rise? What if I'm doing an activity that's causing my pressure to rise? And they really didn't have a lot of answers on that, on a real tangible level of testing. This is where finally MyEyes came out with the tonometer, and I just cried and was so excited. And I'm like, I have to get this because I cannot wait to test my eyes on a daily basis to see, all right, 9 o'clock a.m. Am I the same every day? Doing the same things every day? Am I the same at 12 o'clock? What is the variations within my testing for myself that shows any variations? And the really fascinating part for me was I didn't find a lot of variations. And I only learned that through the tonometer testing.
You still there,
Did my
Colleen?
thing mute?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Nope, there you are.
Okay. Yeah, so it's quite exciting that this is out there, and hopefully insurance will start to recognize this as important. I called my insurance company and gave them a big pitch, even though they really didn't care, but they were interested. The woman did say, let me get my manager, and then they came back and said, yeah, no, we're not covering this at this time. But she said it was very interesting to hear what you had to say about it, because I said, you as an insurance company, you're willing to pay for patients to be blind. And I looked up what that number was in my area. And it was about that they would pay $950, something like that a month if you were blind, towards different things to allow you to navigate your world as a blind person. And I said, if this device is only $3,000 one time, that's nothing when you're paying $950 for life for somebody who is blind. So how about that? And I knew insurance companies are only interested in money with dollar signs. So I wanted to speak to them on the dollar value. So I said, this testing will prevent patients from going blind because we'll be able to see when our pressure starts to rise, go to our doctor and get some results about what's happening here. And then the doctor can help us treat ourselves at a new level of any progression before it's past a surgical level.
It's so true. We were talking about, Krista was on, I think, before you got on, Colleen, about her dealings with her insurance, and she ended up getting it reimbursed at 80%, which was great. Colleen, can you talk a little bit about your adventures, like where you've gone, where you've taken your Home2? It's fascinating.
So I love traveling the world, and I've always had a curiosity with other cultures, places, and regions, and then actually being involved in communities through hiking. So one of my passions is going to different countries where I get to stay in village towns and with the real people in a country, and get to experience also the gorgeous beauty of nature, and I love that peacefulness that gives me to be out there in that kind of environment. And my husband has joined in that passion as well through the years that when we first met. So it's been a real pleasure to be able to do this. And with COVID, it was interesting because he used to have to travel for work, and now he does everything remote. So we are able to actually travel more. And my goal was, before I hit 50 years old, which was just this January, I wanted to see 100 countries, and we hit that goal. And then my husband had surprised me with hitting 7 continents by gifting us Antarctica for December. So one of the things I also said is I know that this is a progressive disease, and maybe in my lifetime we don't have a cure. So within that framework, I want to make sure that I see as much as I can, and be proactive in that as well, with the reality that things can change. My myopia actually caused some more changes with my eyes. So I'm working with a myopic specialist in my area to monitor that now at this level. So with that, I am very aware of the vulnerability of our eyes changing, but it will not stop me in the meantime from seeing as much as I can and enjoying that.
So great. I just like to follow you on Facebook. I live vicariously through you, Colleen. So
Thank
great.
you, Ericka. That's
So
too
great.
kind.
But such a champion for home tonometry, and thank you for all of your passion and your dedication to it, because those of us who are on the other side and have used it, you just know, and you know what it does for you and how it can change the course of your disease.
Yeah.
And you know what? Knowing that you're not spiking or you're stable is just as important, in my opinion, as knowing that you are spiking. So that peace of
Absolutely.
mind, just knowing like, hey, you know what? I'm 13. I'm a solid 13 today, and I'm loving it. So, that it's just really important to know that too. So I like those
Yeah,
videos a lot.
and I don't mean to cut you off,
No, yeah.
Ericka, but I remember when I first offered this idea to my doctor, who's phenomenal. But she said there was a lot of concern about coming out with a home testing device for patients, because how are they going to know how to navigate it? And what if they get too concerned that, it's at 19, oh my God, I have to go to the doctor every time. I said, well, that's where we all work together on this. There is a space for this that I know is coming. But it will require doctors to believe in patients that want to know or be more involved in their own healthcare and not put us all in that box of the previous mindset of more previous time periods as well. I mean, I remember sitting in with the 70-year-olds when I was 35 and looking at this going, boy, this is a lot of patients at that age are saying that this is something they were expecting. You know, I wasn't expecting this at 35, and why should even anybody expect this at 70? We should be saying, why isn't eye care being looked at as a more proactive thing, even earlier in our lives? Even with my dad having had glaucoma, my dad had it, and I wasn't really being tested as a serious level from the time I was a kid because I was with an optometrist. So that was also one of my advocacies, was educating patients that there's a difference between these two doctors that you need to see: the optometrist specializing in our vision care with eyeglasses and helping with prescriptions, but the ophthalmologist that needs to look for disease, especially if you've had it in your family. So, you know, I think we're heading in just an awesome place, and the fact that we're even having this webinar right now just screams volumes about where we're at, and is such a blessing to be a part of this community today.
That's awesome. Thank you, Colleen. And yeah, I love your segue. Actually, it was not planned. But I
No.
don't know. Many of you may have heard we have another webinar about it, which we can post. And any of your questions that we haven't gotten to, we will collect all those, and we'll get that out with the link to we'll answer everything and get it out with the link to the webinar. So for those of you who came in late or had to leave early. But so for, I don't know, Sancha, can you bring up the slide for the PRS?
Yeah, I'll pull them up right
Awesome. So MyEyes, and again, we did do a webinar on this. We are looking at getting into PRS and offering a genetic test for glaucoma patients. And I was able to do this, and looking at, and so it was interesting for me because my glaucoma is secondary, that I was wondering what my risk was of actually getting glaucoma, like in the real world, like if, you know, I didn't have this other disease. So I was able to do it and get my risk score. And so we're going to be, hopefully we're still in the planning stages of this, but hopefully soon we will have a test out that you can purchase and get your polygenic risk score. Again, we can put the webinar link in the notes that we send out to you as well. But basically what it does is it looks at your DNA risk, and you can, if you have a Home2, you can look at that and your data at the same time, and you know, take that information to your doctor and make some plans about, you know, if you're high risk, you may want to be more aggressive with your treatment. If you're not high risk, maybe not. So that's between you and your doctor, but it's going to be a great tool for us to have in our toolbox as well. Also, along with that, just kind of speaking of things coming up at MyEyes, for those of you who own a Home2, we've heard it for years. We've listened, and we've heard, you know, it'd be great, you know, those who use the app, when you have, for those of you who don't have a Home2, when you have a Home2, you have to, the number doesn't appear on the machine. That was an FDA regulation that when it was approved in the United States, iCare couldn't put the IOP score on the device itself. You have to download it. So you download it to generally a smartphone or your PC, but most people use a smartphone. There's an app on your smartphone that iCare, it's called iCare Clinic, and it's great. And the one that's on the desktop, you can go in, you can download charts. For those of you who have rented, you've probably seen those charts that we send. But MyEyes is going to have an app of our own, which you still download. Initially, you're still going to download the information to the iCare clinic through the app, but things like putting in notes, that's probably our biggest, you know, the thing that people want the most is, you know, I took my pressure last night. I'd love a place to put in notes that, you know, I had gone for a run and come home, and I'd love to be able to put that in. So that, yeah, Jackie is funny. So you've asked and we're answering. So we're trying to create an app that's very patient centric and able for you to see your results, but also your doctor. So your doctor can see the results as well without us sending things by email and things like that. Like the doctor will be able to just log in and see your results. If you're renting, they can see in real time. If you're purchasing, you know, they can go in and see your pressures right in the office when you're there. And it works with Epic as well. So that's really exciting news, and we'll have more on that as it comes out specifically, but we're really excited about that at MyEyes. And that's really thanks to all of the patients that gave us all the feedback. And please continue to give us that feedback because, like I said, most of us are glaucoma patients at MyEyes. So we all know it, we feel it, and we really do try to listen to what our patients want and need. Let me see. So if you didn't buy your Home2 from MyEyes, this is a question that came up and it needs servicing. And that does happen. There are some distributors that are no longer distributing the Home2. So those people don't necessarily have a place to go when they need it fixed or looked at or whatever, or need support, troubleshooting, that type of thing. We do at MyEyes, we have a service plan that we offer for those people who have not purchased through MyEyes. Those people generally pay a subscription fee to iCare at the moment for the clinic. So that goes away. We bring your data into our database, and you pay a monthly subscription. It's $19 a month, but you get all of the amazing MyEyes support. You get to talk to one of the patient ambassadors if there's an issue, you need your data sent, whatever, we're there for that. So you can reach me. I just want to put up so you can do Ericka at myeyes.net. People spell my name wrong a lot, so I would go at support@myeyes.net because it's easier to remember. And you can call us or go to myeyes.net. There's a live chat, just if you want to inquire about that. There are no used tonometers available at the moment. For a while, the original Homes were available, but those are not anymore either. I will say if you own an original home, there is a rebate program that iCare has that we can help you with at MyEyes to get that. It's a $500 rebate. So we're able to help you with that. But no, at the moment there are no used tonometers. I would also caution people, we're one of the only distributors, licensed distributors in the United States for the Home2. There are a lot of scams online, so if it's a deal that looks too good to be true, I would look at where it's shipping from. We have had, unfortunately, a few people reach out and send money and then never get a tonometer. So there's really, like I said, go on the iCare website. And again, people get iCare and MyEyes mixed up. iCare makes the machine, but they can't sell to patients. We're the distributor for the Home2. But definitely go through a licensed distributor to purchase your machine. Please don't send money outside the country. So what is the lowest IOP reading that the tonometer can measure? When the tonometer came out and when they did the testing, it wasn't tested at measurements above 50 or below 5. So it was tested at measurements between 5 and 50. I can tell you, as somebody who has a Barrevelt shunt, and your pressure tends to go really low at first, that I've hit a 3 and a 4. And we can help you see that. Sometimes those readings are hidden from the patient until we go in and unmask them. But it can read lower than, I think 3 might be the lowest. We've had people, unfortunately, in the 60s as well. but it can read. It's just, again, when it was approved by the FDA, those measurements outside that range were not measured. Are there plans for this? Great question. For a Home2 tonometer? No, not that I'm aware of. We work really, really closely with iCare. There's nothing in the works that we know of that they've talked about. I mean, the iCare, the Home2 just works. The original Home, you had to connect to an Android, so the Bluetooth, the technology is the same between the original Home and the Home2, but it's really more about the Bluetooth and being able to download your measurements to your phone without connecting it is the big difference between the two. But there are no plans for a Home2. And if there were, we would know about it, I'm sure. So is there any other iCare older model tonometer that will work equally as well as the Home2? Yeah, the original Home works well. Again, iCare has really they don't work on those much anymore. So, people that have had those, again, they've offered rebates to get the old ones and try to get people to upgrade to the Home2. So there's not a lot of those left out there, but again, if you have an older one, we're happy to help you with the rebate with that. So that's the end of the questions. We're at 7:01, so I'm going to respect everybody's time. There is a PRS if you're interested in that polygenic risk score interest form. We will put that link in the information as well. If you're interested in it, just want some more information, we will definitely give you that as well. And again, anybody who's attended or registered, will send you all of the information within the next few days in a copy of the video as well. And if you're interested more, give us a call. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern, and reach out to us. Like I said, we're all glaucoma patients, all of the patient ambassadors, and happy to help and happy to talk to you. So thank you, everybody, for attending, and thank you to our very special guests, Colleen, Justin, Jackie, and Krista. I really appreciate you all sharing. And like I said, it is a community, and we have to stick together. And anybody else who has a story, we'd be happy to share that as well in the information that goes out. So shoot me an email. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.